Okay, so today what we'll be doing is we'll be going through the questions that came up as a result of the Free Eve project. Now it's important to note that when I wrote the paper and I sent it to the Global Challenge people, because of time I wasn't able to send it out and have questions and feedback. The questions came after I had submitted the paper. So the criteria for sending out the questions was the person had to have a degree at least, and I sent it to my close friends because for review. So you should note that all the respondents who asked the questions, of which there were 4, had an advanced level degree, and not that all the people I sent it to, had a bachelor's at least, but the people who responded had an advanced degree. And secondly, everybody I had sent the paper out to, I had asked to have their wives also get their input. These were my friends and they were guys. None of them got their wives' input for the paper. So here are the 4 the responding questions or inquiries, just like if you wrote you did a master, any kind of research paper, and you had to present it to a panel, or any paper and you present it to a panel. So these were the questions that came back. The first question was, how would you get the woman in the Free Eve project to go back to their home countries? And this was, if you read the paper, you'd see that this is outlined in Article 20, in the paper itself, and in Article 28, which is the appendix to the paper. You would see that it's also addressed in the special taxes provision of Article 28. So in the paper itself, you'll notice that it banned all immigration for men. So if the women are coming to the United States, just imagine they're between 18 and 32. Their fathers can't come to the United States. Their uncles, their brothers, and if they have sons at the time who weren't citizens, they would not be able to come to the United States. Now, if they became citizens and had sons, then yes, they would be American citizens. But everybody else would be excluded. So if these women wanted to go and see, their male relatives would not be allowed into the United States. The second part is the special taxes provision, which gives a tax credit to people who get married once. So if you get divorced, you lose that credit. So you're going to get married and stay married. So if these women are 18 to 32 and they want a husband and to raise a family, they will have to go back to their home countries. No, they'll be U.S. citizens, depending on how Congress structures the citizenship rules. But they will be U.S. citizens and are free to come and go. And only their male children would be able to come and go, but their husbands or anyone else would not be allowed to visit the United States. So they would come to the United States, do as outlined in the paper, whatever they have to do. But there would be strong incentives for them to return to their home country. And if their home country adopted, as the paper says, Article 28 into their governing nation's document, then those husbands, all those males would eventually be able to come to the United States. But until then, that will be how you control the women coming here and then going back to their domicile country of residence. And not every woman is going to want, if every woman in the world is a citizen of the U.S., why would they want to come here? Stay home. There's no reason to come here. You can come anytime you want. It would be more beneficial for you to stay in your, and more opportunities to stay in your domicile nation of origin and build that up to what the United States looks like. So that would be the answer to question 1. How would you get these women to go back? Question 2 was, you cannot bring all the women to the United States, so how would you do it? And that relies on 2 principles. The first principle is called white flight. So if you have a community in the United States that's predominantly predominantly white, and a certain amount of blacks or Hispanics, move in, at about 3 to 6, about up to 3%, that neighborhood will be considered stable. But when you get from 3 to 6%, you begin to see what's called white flight. And that is where, as blacks move into a neighborhood, whites flee that neighborhood for other more white neighborhoods. And they take with them capital, and the capital that they have over the years. So there's a capital deprivation in these neighborhoods. And even blacks in these neighborhoods who are fairly successful tend to also follow white flight. The second principle is gentrification, and it works in the opposite direction. So if you have, say, a neighborhood that is 3% black, 3% white, but the majority is black, what you'll find is that neighborhood will be fairly stable, a stable black neighborhood. It will lack capital investments, and along with other sorts of negative socioeconomic impacts. But once you start approaching 6%, what begins to happen is that capital begins to flow into those neighborhoods, and you begin to find white gentrification begins to affect those neighborhoods, because as about 6%, more white people move into those neighborhoods, bringing with them capital and forcing out the indigenous black or whatever population that was there, and improve the socioeconomic standing of the neighborhood. And so we use that principle in the Free Eve project, because what you want to do is you only need to target a certain population at about 6% of that target population to flip it to, and remember, we're exporting American gentrification. So you want to export American gentrification, and you want to stop flight. So you want to stop those people from fleeing into America. We've done that with the mail ban. But you also then want to gentrify those societies with American, capital and culture and whatever, the secondary form of governance. So you want to encourage, as I said in the first question, women to go back. So you've stopped the men from coming in to your country, and there you stop flight. And then you've encouraged gentrification by bringing in the women, but then they have to go back to their domicile nation of origin, and you encourage gentrification that way. And you only need to do about 6%. As I said in the paper, I even use the Chinese military. You only need about 6% of the descendants of Chinese military officers. You bring them here, you send them back to China, and that will cause, as I say, gentrification, capital gentrification of those countries, those domicile governments overseas. So that takes care of the second problem. You control flight, which is male flight, and then you use female gentrification to gradually And like I said, as the women begin to have more and more children over time, then you increase the American-born population overseas. Remember, the objective is to get every woman in the world every woman at least to be an American citizen. And once you do that, then every boy is a citizen as well. So that's how you would do it. Slowly, at about 6% at a time. You don't have to do the whole population at once. That would be ridiculous. The third response was Article 28 sounds like something ISIS would do. As you know, that's the Muslim terrorist organization, ISIS, that was wreaking havoc. They were, in fact, buying women and killing people and all sorts of weird things. This question raised a little bit of concern because it is is slightly disturbing because it goes to a very important principle. If you don't understand the difference between freedom and tyranny, then there's no point. So in Article 28, you're buying women and you send them free. Remember, the premise of Article 28 starts off with you are abolishing by constitutional amendment the income tax or the slave tax or whatever you want to call it. So then after that, everything is, and then Section 6 makes abortion a sin and brings the womb under the jurisdiction of the United States. That in turn confers all the rights in the Constitution. So to say that this sounds like ISIS is disingenuous and maybe even be a little hypocritical, because in one case we're freeing the woman, and along with that also comes the right to bear arms, the right, which I would say is a global right. But that's neither here nor there. The question is, do you understand the difference between ISIS and the United States Constitution? And as far as I'm concerned, if you think they're the same, then, really, where do you go from there? But that is the crux of the matter. It is important you understand what this endeavor is. It's not to get women to come here to work because you can't tax their labor. They'll have collective bargaining. Their wealth is protected. Their life is protected. Their religious freedom is protected, and their collective bargaining is protected. That's not ISIS. And it's important to understand that the distinction, and it's not even America in 1776 with slavery. The Constitution has advanced way past then. So if you have to pay ISIS to free their woman, I would gladly do that. So if you don't get that principle, unfortunately, tragic. I'll try to spend some more time and explain, but I don't think you have to. You just need to read the U.S. Constitution and then ask, what would it be like if Article 28 was adopted? Because the Free Eve Project says a post-Article 28 Constitution. So that deals with that. So we now have how you get a woman to go back, how you export American citizenship globally, what's the difference between paying for these women to come here, be citizens, and go back there. And then finally, the last question was, well, I've read the paper, but it sounds slightly misogynistic. And I have to admit, when I did write the paper, I will admit there was a certain degree of braggadociousness and assumptions. Misogynistic wasn't one of the assumptions I made. But I firmly believe America is the best hope for mankind. So if it's misogynistic, misogynistic it is. But the premise, I can't buy all the men in the world. Why would I do that? That would be stupid. I use the club principle. I call it the nightclub principle. When you go to a nightclub and you're a guy, you get all dressed up and you go at, the club opens at 10. You go to the club at 10 and you stand there and the bouncer is letting in all the hot, young chicks, 18 to 32. 18 to 32. The paper says 13, but that's for all the strategic reasons to get girls to learn English and give them time to go into military service. But that's neither here nor there. But when I go to a nightclub, and I am all dressed up, and I'm in the line, and he's letting in all the girls, and then finally he says, okay, you can go in, and I pay, you go in, you pay your cover charge, and then he stops the line and stops letting in 10,000 dudes, and he's still letting in the hot girls. I pay my $10 and I go in. I don't then go in and turn back and say, hey, buddy, letting all these guys, I want a club full of men. No. I won't. No, I am misogynistic. I want to go in there and I want to be the best looking guy. If I was the only one, that would be great. So I see no problem with the paper being misogynistic or braggadocious or tooting your own horn or arrogant or American imperialism. I don't care. America is the best hope for mankind, and we're going to export American citizenship, American labor, and it's not going to be the primary government, but it will be the secondary form of government for everyone on this planet. So those are the questions that were submitted for the Free Eve Project. Great group of guys. Thank you very much. And let's hope this clears everything up for everybody else. Thank you very much.